How to lead winning communication strategies. Effective communication is the cornerstone of successful leadership. Whether in business, politics, or community initiatives, a well-crafted communication strategy can inspire, align, and mobilize teams toward a shared goal. Leading winning communication strategies requires clarity, empathy, adaptability, and a deep understanding of your audience. This essay explores key principles and actionable steps to develop and implement communication strategies that drive success. Understanding your audience. The foundation of any winning communication strategy is a thorough understanding of the audience. Leaders must identify who they are addressing, whether employees, customers, stakeholders, or the public, and tailor their message to resonate with their needs, values, and expectations. To achieve this, start by conducting audience analysis. Gather data on demographics, preferences, and pain points. For example, a corporate leader addressing a diverse workforce might use surveys or focus groups to understand employee concerns. Similarly, a community leader might engage with local forums to gauge public sentiment. By aligning your message with the audience's priorities, you build trust and ensure your communication is relevant and impactful. Crafting a clear and compelling message. Clarity is critical in communication. A winning strategy hinges on delivering a message that is concise, focused, and easy to understand. Avoid jargon or overly complex language that might alienate your audience. Instead, use simple, direct language to convey your vision or objectives. A compelling message also incorporates storytelling. People connect emotionally with narratives, so weave stories into your communication to illustrate your points. For instance, a business leader launching a new product might share a customer success story to highlight its value. By combining clarity with emotional resonance, you create a message that sticks. Choosing the right channels. Selecting the appropriate communication channels is vital to ensure your message reaches its intended audience effectively. Different platforms serve different purposes. For example, email might be ideal for detailed internal updates, while social media is better suited for engaging a broader audience with concise, visually appealing content. Consider the context and preferences of your audience when choosing channels. Younger audiences may respond better to digital platforms like Instagram or X, while professional stakeholders might prefer LinkedIn or formal presentations. A multi-channel approach often works best, combining in-person meetings, digital media, and written communication to maximize reach and impact. Fostering two-way communication. Winning communication strategies are not one-sided. Great leaders encourage feedback and create opportunities for dialogue. This fosters trust and ensures that the strategy remains dynamic and responsive to changing needs. Implement mechanisms for feedback, such as open-door policies, anonymous surveys, or interactive Q&A sessions. Actively listen to responses and demonstrate that you value input by acting on it when appropriate. For example, if employees express concerns about workload, a leader might adjust project timelines and communicate the changes transparently. Two-way communication builds a culture of collaboration and strengthens buy-in for your strategy. Adapting to context and crisis. Adaptability is a hallmark of effective communication leadership. In times of crisis or uncertainty, leaders must pivot quickly to address new challenges while maintaining credibility. For instance, during a corporate crisis like a product recall, a leader should communicate promptly, transparently, and with empathy to reassure stakeholders. To prepare for adaptability, develop contingency plans within your communication strategy. Anticipate potential challenges and outline how you will address them. Practice active listening and monitor feedback to stay attuned to shifts in audience sentiment. By remaining flexible, you can adjust your messaging to maintain trust and alignment. Leveraging emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, EQ, is a critical component of leading winning communication strategies. Leaders with high EQ can read the room, understand unspoken concerns, and respond with empathy. This is particularly important when addressing sensitive topics or navigating diverse perspectives. For example, when announcing organizational changes, a leader with strong EQ might acknowledge employees' fears about job security before outlining the benefits of the change. By validating emotions and addressing concerns proactively, you build stronger connections and foster loyalty. Measuring success and iterating. A winning communication strategy is not static. it evolves based on results. Establish clear metrics to evaluate the effectiveness of your communication, such as engagement rates, feedback scores, or progress toward organizational goals. For instance, a marketing campaign's success might be measured by website traffic or sales conversions, while an internal strategy might be evaluated through employee satisfaction surveys. Use these insights to refine your approach. If a particular message or channel underperforms, analyze why and adjust accordingly. Continuous improvement ensures that your communication strategy remains relevant and effective over time. Conclusion: leading winning communication strategies requires a blend of strategic planning, emotional intelligence, and adaptability. By understanding your audience, crafting clear and compelling messages, choosing the right channels, fostering dialogue, and measuring success, you can inspire and align others toward a shared vision. In an ever-changing world, the ability to communicate effectively is not just a skill. It's a competitive advantage that drives success across all domains of leadership. The art of influence, leading with winning communication strategies. In any organization, the ability to communicate effectively is the cornerstone of successful leadership. While technical skill and strategic foresight are crucial, they are rendered inert without the capacity to inspire, inform, and align a team. A leader who masters communication transforms it from a simple exchange of information into a powerful tool for influence and a catalyst for success. Winning communication strategies are not accidental. They are built upon a foundation of clarity, empathy, and purpose. The first principle of a winning communication strategy is clarity. A leader must be able to articulate a clear vision and a defined purpose. When a team understands not only what they are doing, but also why they are doing it, they become more engaged and motivated. This clarity extends beyond grand mission statements to day-to-day interactions. Leaders must ensure that instructions, feedback, and expectations are unambiguous, leaving no room for misunderstanding. This requires using simple, direct language and being mindful of jargon that might alienate or confuse different audiences. A clear message is a message that is both heard and understood, creating a shared reality for the entire team. Next, a leader's communication must be rooted in empathy. Effective leaders recognize that their audience is not a monolithic entity, but a collection of individuals with unique perspectives, concerns, and motivations. Winning communication strategies involve tailoring the message to the audience, whether it is a one-on-one conversation, a team meeting, or an all-hands address. By actively listening and seeking to understand the needs of their team members, leaders can build trust and rapport. This two-way communication demonstrates respect and values the contributions of others, fostering an environment where individuals feel safe to voice their opinions and provide feedback. A leader's empathy ensures that the communication is not just a broadcast, but a genuine dialogue. Finally, purpose must drive every communication. A winning strategy is always intentional, with a clear objective for every message. Before speaking, a leader should ask, "What do I want the audience to know, think, or do after this interaction?" This focus on a specific outcome prevents aimless conversations and ensures that every word serves a larger goal. Purpose-driven communication also involves consistency. A leader's actions must align with their words to maintain credibility. When a leader's message is consistent and their behavior reflects their stated values, they build a strong sense of integrity that inspires confidence and loyalty in their team. This intentionality transforms communication from a routine task into a strategic act of leadership. In conclusion, winning communication strategies are the lifeblood of effective leadership. By prioritizing clarity, embracing empathy, and communicating with purpose, leaders can do more than just manage. They can influence, inspire, and unite their teams toward a shared vision. These strategies enable a leader to build a culture of trust and transparency, creating an environment where a team can not only achieve its goals, but also thrive. How to lead winning communication strategies. In an era defined by information saturation and rapid technological change, the ability to communicate effectively has transcended mere soft skill status to become a critical strategic imperative. Whether in business, politics, or nonprofits, winning is no longer just about having the best product or idea. It is about ensuring that product or idea is understood, believed, and embraced. Leading a winning communication strategy is therefore not the act of a solitary spokesperson, but the disciplined orchestration of a multifaceted campaign. It requires a blend of art and science, empathy and analysis, to cut through the noise and connect authentically with an audience. The journey to a winning strategy is built on 4 foundational pillars: deep audience insight, crystalline clarity of message, strategic channel selection, and a culture of active listening and adaptation. The first and non-negotiable step in crafting any winning strategy is to move beyond assumptions and develop a profound, empathetic understanding of the audience. A message crafted in a vacuum, no matter how eloquent, is destined to fail. Winning leaders invest in research to create detailed audience personas, asking not just who their audience is demographically, but what they value, how they consume information, what fears they harbor, and what aspirations they hold. This empathetic insight allows a communicator to frame a message not from their own perspective, but from the audience's, creating a powerful bridge of relevance. For instance, a company launching a new sustainability initiative would craft vastly different messages for environmentally conscious consumers, cost-focused shareholders, and regulatory bodies, even though the core facts remain the same. The winning strategy speaks to the audience, not at them. Armed with this understanding, the next pillar is the distillation of a complex idea into a core message of unwavering clarity and consistency. In a world of limited attention spans, complexity is the enemy of comprehension. A winning message is simple, memorable, and repeatable. It is the strategic North Star that aligns every piece of communication, from a CEO's keynote address to his social media post. This is not dumbing down. It is the intellectual rigor of finding the essence of an idea. This core message must then be supported by a narrative, a story that provides context, evokes emotion, and makes the abstract tangible. Data points convince the logical mind, but stories, which illustrate impact and human experience, convince the heart and are far more likely to be remembered and shared. A winning strategy is built on a foundation of what and why, told through a compelling story. However, a perfect message delivered through the wrong medium is a wasted effort. The third pillar of a winning strategy is the intentional and integrated selection of communication channels. The modern landscape is a fragmented ecosystem of traditional media, social platforms, email, internal intranets, and face-to-face interaction. A leader must meet their audience where they are. This requires discerning which channels are best for broadcasting a broad message, which are suited for targeted engagement, and which are optimal for fostering two-way dialogue. An integrated approach ensures consistency across touchpoints, reinforcing the core message. For example, a major organizational change might be announced in a company-wide meeting, emotion and leadership visibility. Detailed in a meticulously crafted email, clarity and reference, and discussed in team huddles, dialogue and reassurance. The channel is not an afterthought. It is an integral part of the message itself. Finally, and perhaps most critically, a winning communication strategy is never a monologue. It is a dynamic dialogue fueled by continuous listening and the agility to adapt. The launch of a campaign is the beginning, not the end. Leaders must establish mechanisms for feedback through social listening tools, surveys, focus groups, or direct engagement to gauge the audience's reception and response. This feedback loop provides invaluable real-world data. Is the message resonating? Are there misunderstandings? Is the competition countering effectively? A winning leader treats this feedback not as criticism, but as essential intelligence, using it to refine messages, adjust tactics, and demonstrate that the organization is truly listening. This humility and adaptability build trust and credibility, turning a one-time audience into a long-term community. In conclusion, leading a winning communication strategy is a deliberate and leadership-intensive process. It is the alchemy of transforming empathy into insight, insight into a clear message, and message into a strategically disseminated conversation. It demands that leaders be not only articulate speakers, but also empathetic listeners and agile strategists. In doing so, they do more than transmit information. They build understanding, forge trust, and inspire action. Ultimately, the power to communicate winningly is the power to turn vision into reality. How to lead winning communication strategies. In today's interconnected business landscape, the ability to develop and execute effective communication strategies has become a defining factor that separates successful leaders from the rest. Communication is no longer just about conveying information. It's about building relationships, driving engagement, inspiring action, and creating lasting impact. Leaders who master the art of strategic communication don't just inform. They influence, motivate, and transform their organizations and communities. Understanding the foundation of strategic communication. Winning communication strategies begin with a deep understanding of purpose and audience. The most effective leaders recognize that communication is fundamentally about creating meaningful connections and driving specific outcomes. This requires moving beyond traditional one-way broadcasting to embrace a more nuanced, multi-directional approach that considers context, timing, and the diverse needs of stakeholders. Strategic communication differs from routine messaging in its intentionality and systematic approach. It involves careful planning, consistent execution, and continuous refinement based on feedback and results. Leaders who excel in this area understand that every communication touchpoint is an opportunity to reinforce their vision, build trust, and advance their objectives. The foundation also rests on authenticity. In an era where audiences are increasingly skeptical of corporate messaging and political rhetoric, genuine communication that reflects real values and intentions resonates far more powerfully than polished but hollow statements. Authentic leaders create space for vulnerability, admit mistakes, and demonstrate genuine care for their audience's concerns and aspirations. Developing audience-centric approaches. The cornerstone of any winning communication strategy is a profound understanding of your audience. This goes beyond basic demographic data to include psychographic insights, communication preferences, cultural contexts, and situational factors that influence how messages are received and acted upon. Successful leaders invest significant time in researching and understanding their stakeholders, often employing multiple methods to gain comprehensive insights. Effective audience analysis involves segmentation strategies that recognize the diversity within any group. Different stakeholders require different approaches, messaging, and channels. A communication strategy that attempts to use the same message for employees, customers, investors, and community members is likely to miss the mark with all groups. Instead, winning leaders develop nuanced approaches that speak directly to the specific interests, concerns, and motivations of each audience segment. This audience-centric approach also requires cultural competency and sensitivity. In our globalized world, leaders must navigate diverse cultural contexts, communication styles, and expectations. What works in one cultural setting may be ineffective or even counterproductive in another. Successful communication strategies incorporate cultural awareness and adapt messaging, tone, and delivery methods accordingly. Crafting compelling narratives. Humans are inherently drawn to stories, and the most effective communication strategies leverage narrative structures to make messages more engaging, memorable, and persuasive. Winning leaders understand that facts and data, while important, are most powerful when embedded within compelling narratives that help audiences understand context, implications, and relevance to their own experiences. Effective narratives in leadership communication typically include clear protagonists, challenges or conflicts, and resolutions that demonstrate growth, learning, or achievement. These stories might feature customers who benefited from a product, employees who overcame obstacles, or communities that were transformed through collaborative efforts. The key is ensuring that narratives are genuine, relevant, and aligned with broader strategic objectives. Successful leaders also understand the importance of narrative consistency across different communication channels and touchpoints. While the specific details and emphasis might vary depending on the audience and medium, the core story and values should remain consistent. This consistency helps build trust and reinforces key messages through repetition and reinforcement. Mastering multi-channel communication. Today's communication landscape offers unprecedented opportunities to reach audiences through diverse channels, from traditional media and face-to-face interactions to social media platforms, podcasts, video content, and emerging technologies. Winning communication strategies leverage this diversity by selecting the most appropriate channels for specific messages and audiences while maintaining consistency across all touchpoints. The most effective leaders understand that different channels have unique strengths, limitations, and audience expectations. Social media platforms excel at fostering engagement and building communities, while formal presentations might be more appropriate for conveying complex information or making important announcements. Email remains effective for detailed communications, while video content can create emotional connections and demonstrate authenticity. Multi-channel strategies also require careful coordination and timing. Messages should be sequenced and coordinated across channels to create synergistic effects rather than competing for attention or creating confusion. This might involve using social media to generate interest before a major announcement, following up presentations with detailed written materials, or using multiple channels to reinforce key messages over time. Building trust through transparency. Trust is the foundation of effective communication, and transparency is one of the most powerful tools for building and maintaining that trust. Leaders who embrace transparency don't just share good news. They provide honest assessments of challenges, acknowledge uncertainties, and demonstrate accountability for both successes and failures. Transparency in communication involves several key elements. First is honesty about what you know and what you don't know. Audiences appreciate leaders who acknowledge limitations in their knowledge or uncertainty about outcomes rather than making promises they might not be able to keep. Second is consistency between public messages and private actions. Trust erodes quickly when there are significant disconnects between what leaders say and what they do. Effective transparency also involves appropriate levels of disclosure. While complete transparency isn't always possible or advisable, successful leaders find ways to be as open as possible while respecting legitimate constraints around confidentiality, competitive sensitivity, or privacy concerns. They explain these constraints when necessary and commit to sharing more information when circumstances allow. Leveraging data and feedback. Winning communication strategies are built on evidence rather than assumptions. The most effective leaders systematically collect and analyze data about their communication effectiveness, using multiple metrics to understand reach, engagement, comprehension, and behavioral impact. This data-driven approach enables continuous improvement and helps identify what's working well and what needs adjustment. Feedback mechanisms should be diverse and accessible, allowing for both quantitative measurement and qualitative insights. Surveys, focus groups, social media analytics, website metrics, and direct conversations all provide valuable information about communication effectiveness. The key is creating systems that capture feedback consistently and analyzing it systematically to identify patterns and trends. Perhaps most importantly, winning leaders demonstrate that they actually use the feedback they collect. This might involve acknowledging what they've learned from audience input, making visible changes based on feedback, or explaining why certain suggestions cannot be implemented. This responsiveness reinforces the value of feedback and encourages continued engagement from stakeholders. Managing communication during crisis. Crisis situations present unique communication challenges that can make or break leadership credibility. The most effective leaders prepare for crisis communication by developing protocols, training key spokespeople, and establishing clear decision-making processes that enable rapid but thoughtful responses when challenges arise. Effective crisis communication requires speed, accuracy, and empathy. Audiences expect leaders to respond quickly to significant developments, but they also expect those responses to be factual and sensitive to the human impact of the situation. This balance requires preparation, including pre-drafted messaging templates, established approval processes, and trained communication teams who can execute effectively under pressure. Crisis communication also provides opportunities to demonstrate leadership character and values. How leaders communicate during difficult times often has more lasting impact than their communication during smooth periods. Audiences remember whether leaders took responsibility, showed genuine concern for those affected, and provided clear guidance about next steps and recovery efforts. Measuring success and continuous improvement. Winning communication strategies include robust measurement systems that go beyond basic metrics like reach and impressions to assess actual impact on awareness, understanding, attitudes, and behaviors. This requires establishing clear objectives at the outset and identifying specific indicators that demonstrate progress toward those objectives. Effective measurement systems typically include both leading and lagging indicators. Leading indicators might include message reach, engagement rates, or initial attitude changes, while lagging indicators focus on behavioral outcomes like increased participation, improved performance, or enhanced reputation measures. The most comprehensive approaches track progress along the entire communication to action pathway. Continuous improvement requires regular analysis of performance data, honest assessment of what's working and what isn't, and willingness to adapt strategies based on evidence rather than assumptions. The most effective leaders treat their communication strategies as living documents that evolve based on new insights, changing circumstances, and emerging opportunities. Conclusion: leading winning communication strategies requires a combination of strategic thinking, genuine empathy, technical skill, and continuous learning. The most effective leaders understand that communication is not just a tool for conveying information, but a powerful means of building relationships, inspiring action, and creating positive change. Success in strategic communication comes from understanding your audience deeply, crafting authentic and compelling messages, leveraging appropriate channels effectively, building trust through transparency, and continuously refining your approach based on evidence and feedback. These skills become even more critical during challenging times when clear, honest, and empathetic communication can make the difference between organizational success and failure. As the communication landscape continues to evolve with new technologies and changing audience expectations, the leaders who will be most successful are those who remain committed to the fundamental principles of strategic communication while staying adaptable and open to new approaches. The investment in developing these capabilities pays dividends not just in immediate communication effectiveness, but in long-term leadership credibility and organizational success.